Rescue has never happened before in so violent an enemy territory. It is usually not done because it is considered not doable. Such a great military like no other. Adding on Truth Social, open the effing straight, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell.
Welcome. It's Jennifer Bukowski in for Randy Tobler here with Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, and producer Drake. And what an Easter miracle indeed, Stephanie. We got both our pilots. The CIA was involved in subterfuge to distract the Iranians, to not let them know we had already rescued one in order to make it not obvious that another one was still at large. And I guess they were really far apart due to the speed of the aircraft as they had to eject. It was going like 1,000 miles an hour, which is crazy to think about. And they were able to shoot it down is the scary thing.
It's the stuff of movies. And I think a lot of people on Twitter were saying, like, this is for sure going to be turned into a movie. It's like reading a really good book. The more, like Twitter yesterday, we kept getting more and more and more details about the extent they went to get this guy. And it's incredible. John, like, have you ever heard anything like this? It's crazy.
Kind of reminded me when they went in. Remember when Scott Grady got shot down in Bosnia? Do you remember that?
I read about that just over the weekend. And
it was a similar kind of mission. I think I don't know if it was the PJs with the Air Force or a Marine Corps trap mission that went in and got him. But man, what those crews do is pretty amazing.
But they had overhead drones, 2 of which we lost. And those puppies are like $1 million or something.
And we blew up some of our own aircraft that had sensitive material on it so that they couldn't access the information, right?
Yeah, in a desert landing strip. So who got off the plane? 2 different planes and got on the ground then? Someone must have... They must have had people running around on the ground if they had 2 planes land.
I think our Delta Force guys, I think that's who ended up our special force people. I don't know if it was Delta or I think it's Delta that went and got him. But yeah, I think, Jen, you and I highlighted the same tweet. It was it gave me a chuckle, but I guess there are Europeans that were saying no one guy is worth, the destruction of your planes and the drones and all of this expensive effort. I mean, they said in the millions of dollars. And what did he say? He said, "You don't get it. We will lose 12 aircraft to save 1 pilot. We will black bag your dictator in the dead of night. We will even beat you at your national sport just for fun. The sooner," what did he say? "The sooner you stop trying to understand the U.S. from a Euro mindset." Well, now my Twitter is glitching, but he basically said, what did he say?
The sooner we can speak. Yeah, my Twitter's having the sooner we can speak seriously. But I guess that used to be the mindset. Like, you don't have the resources to. But the thing is, it's like we read as a kid. I don't know if you did, but Ender's Game. Did you ever read that? Producer Drake, are you familiar with that book? We will go raise hell to not just make it known that we will do this, but to stop future conflict. Like, we need to put people on notice. It's like, I hate to make it equivalent to going to jury trial, but you have to let the other side know that you are willing to raise hell and fight, or else they won't respect you. And so we had to show that we're willing to put the resources behind rescuing our people so that not only our own service people will feel more confident serving in a theater of war, but so the other side is on notice that, we take this very seriously. We will have robots flying above, and if you're trying to recoup that $60,000 reward, you're going to get shot.
Yeah.
So don't go out there with your boys and try to go get and kill our guy.
Yeah, I mean, just that we are elite, right? We're smarter than you. We have better intelligence than you. We have better equipment than you.
Yes.
And that we care about each and every person that, that potentially is in harm's way. And that, I mean, I think it's a confidence, hopefully, it provides confidence to our military members that, no man left behind, right? Like, if we put you in harm's way and you're getting left behind, we're coming for you.
It made me think, though, of the argument that they've been making a long time about women serving in combat roles, because Iran in particular, they torture their prisoners and their female prisoners by raping them. And remember that G.I. Jane movie, they were bringing that up. And it's just, these were 2 males, but we did have that female pilot who looked like what a trooper she was. She popped up with a smile on her face after having to eject, but not in Iran.
Right.
So, yeah. And now Trump is saying he could strike every power plant. And I like the end part of his message here. Open the effing strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah, President Donald J. Trump.
Wow.
Praise be to Allah.
Wow.
Apparently, Trump was concerned that one of them had been captured because he had said something religious on the way down. Did you see that? He's like, all power be to God or something. And so Trump's like, did they already have him? They were concerned about that over the time that he was missing. But he had to only intermittently turn on and off his beacon while he was at large, having to hide for 2 days, basically. And, well, anyway, we're going to have Jill Schluty on at 8:08 because our Attorney General, Catherine Hanaway, has filed a lawsuit against the makers of Kratom and 7-OH. Apparently, these are really addictive. They're harmful. And right now, they're being sold in gas stations to kids. Sometimes they look like candy. Kansas City actually passed an ordinance where you can't sell these 7-OH at all, and you can only sell Kratom to people above 21 years old. But we're going to talk to her because I've heard rumblings that this is causing problems within the community, especially with the homeless population. So I'd love to get the law enforcement perspective take on that topic. And
we will be talking to Attorney General Hanaway later this week as well. But yeah, no, I think hearing from people on the ground and hearing an update from Chief Schluty about all of the activity, and I think we're making good strides in Colombia on bringing down violence. So an update there is really important. And Jen, we're going the farthest we've ever gone today, right? Like, we're bypassing the moon and going around the other side of the moon is the schedule for Monday, right?
I think right now they're in the moon's orbit, and that's exciting. They keep having toilet problems.
Yep, the toilet's acting up again.
Well, one guy, or was it a gal, designated themselves the space plumber. And when we did our interview with NASA, we said, what's the training like? And they said, not only are they astronauts, they're mechanics, they have to provide their own health care. They have like 17 different specialties. And, I kind of thought, well, that's when she said mechanic, I thought like, well, yeah, like if something goes wrong with the space shuttle, you got to tinker with it. But never did I imagine in my mind, like also plumber.
Yeah. You got to do the plumbing.
That's I know. I
saw one of the experts on TV talking to one of the Apollo ground crew guys and said they're, and it's a breakfast hour, but it's they were Ziploc bags with duct tape pretty much in the Apollo era. So
that's what I was thinking, because they said this new fangled, they called it like the universal evacuation system is new for the Artemis mission, and that they were really excited that they actually had like a toilet because they've never had it before. So I was like, what did they do before? Do you just wear diapers? Or, yeah.
Or change yourself?
I guess. I don't know. But they were really excited about this new toilet, and now here it is giving them some problems. Apparently.
If that Big Bang Theory, isn't that the Howard's big claim to fame, the one guy in that Big Bang Theory? It's like that he did the space toilet. Did that long-running series. And so they were always giving him trouble because he's like, I'm an astronaut. And they're like, you're a space plumber, basically. But hey, spaceplane, they would love to have Howard up there right now fixing their toilet, I'm sure.
I am so sure of that. That's tough.
Well, there's so many. We have more topics than time this morning, believe it or not, because just a busy Easter weekend. Happy Easter to everyone. And did you have, well, I had a good Easter. Producer Drake?
I had to help my brother out of a ditch yesterday, so that's what I was doing on Easter. Yeah.
My son had to help push his John Deere out of a ditch yesterday. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, happy Easter, everyone. Don't end up in ditches next year.
Well,
please.
with all that, I mean, there are a lot of people out mowing with all that rain last week, and man, hopefully we get some sunshine this week. But yeah, that grass is coming up pretty fast, and so I saw a lot of people out doing their yard work yesterday.
No joke. April showers for real. Yep. We had a good Easter. I hosted. John, how about you?
Yep, survived in one piece. Got the vehicle stuck in the driveway because everything's so soft. So, Drake, you're not the only ones.
Yeah, our Easter was not as happy, and we missed some pictures. But shout out to all the people at MU Women's and Children's and first responders. Had a kid with a medical emergency, so spent the weekend dealing with that. But glad to report that all it is looking well,
Thank God.
and just really appreciative. We do a lot of work with Children's Miracle Network, raising money for the hospital, and we always say you never know when you're going to need it, and we needed it this weekend, and so really appreciative of all the experts and folks we have in Mid Missouri who helped us out this weekend.
Yeah, and all the folks that are there on holidays while we're eating our ham and doing our egg hunts, they're there helping people, save people. And I heard my brother's an ER doctor there, and he said it was busy.
It was really busy, and certainly, it definitely brought to light, I wasn't expecting to be there, but certainly there are people whose jobs, they weren't ever planning to be with their family on Easter. And so it's a good reminder that we've got a lot of people who work on those holiday weekends and keep the rest of us healthy and safe. So.
Well, if you're just joining us, it's Jennifer Bukowski in for Randy Tobler. Randy has the day off. I'm Stephanie Bell. And next up, we're going to have the Daily DC Rundown with John Marsh, so don't go away.
It's Wake Up Missouri
Orion spacecraft and its crew have officially entered the lunar sphere of influence. That milestone taking place at a mission elapsed time of 4 days, 6 hours, 2 minutes, and 54 seconds into the Artemis 2 mission. By reaching this milestone, it means that the gravitational forces of the moon are now greater on the Orion spacecraft than that of Earth.
I'd also like to share that we noticed we entered the lunar sphere of influence about an hour ago, and sure enough, we are now falling to the moon rather than rising away from Earth.
How cool. And it's time for our daily DC rundown.
Real story behind that all is the Earth or the moon gravity giving them fits with the space toilet on Artemis.
Yeah.
We'll find out when they swing around the backside of the moon and tell us what they saw. President, meanwhile, directing that profanity-laced message to Iran, signaling the U.S. will target the regime's power plants and bridges if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened. Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day all wrapped up into one in Iran. President says there will be nothing like it, and as Jen reported, open the effing strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. The president saying, praise be to Allah. Says the war's nearing completion, but the deadline could determine whether the conflict is actually ending or about to escalate. Former Pentagon official confirms the rescue of the U.S. airmen in Iran served as more than a recovery mission, saying it was a warning to Tehran the U.S. can penetrate just about anywhere. Not only can we rescue our pilots, but we can also go where we need to secure your nuclear supplies or the remainders of your leadership. And the CIA deeply involved in the mission to rescue the backseater from the downed F-15. CIA apparently launched a deception campaign, spreading word inside Iran that U.S. forces already found him and were moving him on the ground out of the country. So, I don't know if the CIA really needs to be spreading the tale of what they do behind the scenes, but hats off to them for adding another measure to the successful retrieval of both airmen.
Yeah.
And today at the White House is the big event, the Easter egg roll.
Jesus Osite is going to be there with his 3 kids, so that'll be a fun, special memory for them and their family.
Yes, I always enjoy the pictures, and now with a lot of our Missourian friends there, we always get a report. We're headed to a Republican National Lawyers Association conference here, and a lot of the folks that end up there were giving me stories from the Easter egg roll, and of course there's like cute little Easter eggs that they put out every year as like commemorative of the event, but it'll be fun to kind of see what happens today at the White House.
Cute pics. Lucky Ducks getting to go to that. What did Biden do a few years ago that he got to be guided by the Easter Bunny or something at that event?
Yeah, I think he did. Handed out little Easter egg shaped bottles of Geritol or something.
There, you're the bunny. Hi, back in my day.
It's quite the
Easter
scene.
Bunny. You want to arm wrestle?
Yeah. Grandpa at Easter for sure. He is glad.
Don't.
Oh boy. Well, apparently President Trump is sounding the alarm that over 320,000 or 9% of all U.S. babies were born to illegal or temporary migrant mothers, and saying that the Supreme Court needs to do the right thing and strike down birthright citizenship. Others are saying you have to amend the Constitution if you would want to do that. Would you be in favor of amending the Constitution to require that the parents be here lawfully or be citizens in order for citizenship to confer upon the babies?
Yeah, we haven't had a constitutional amendment. We went over this last week, John, I think since 1992. I think wasn't it 92?
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it would be a big deal. I want to vote on a constitutional amendment. If we have to,
They're hard to get done. We don't agree on very much in our country anymore is the problem. We can't even get a budget passed. All right. Well, Wisconsin's having a little election, and they're having some election irregularities that we have to talk about when we get back on Wake Up Missouri. Welcome back to Wake Up Missouri. It's Jennifer Bukowski filling in for Randy Tobler here with Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Drake Whitman. And Wisconsin is having a little election snafus with double mail-in ballots being sent out. This is important because we're trying to get the stupid Save America Act passed, which would, result in us not having these anomalies and problems with the mail-in ballots across the country, especially when you consider people can get more than one. Check this story out. Yep, that's it.
Double ballots. This includes Green Bay resident David Baumgart, who votes absentee while living in Florida for the winter. He received the duplicate ballot just days after mailing back the original.
And at first I thought, did they, get my ballot back and there was a problem, but no explanation or anything. It was just obviously a second ballot, so obviously I didn't send it in because I had already voted.
Baumgart wasn't the only one to get 2 absentee ballots. A total of 152 Green Bay absentee voters received an additional one for the spring election, according to City Clerk Celestine Jeffries.
We sent letters to them already saying that if you've gotten 2 ballots, don't vote them both. Only vote one and destroy the other one at your home.
That makes it sound to me like
that's like the honor system.
The honor system. And apparently the same place, they need to fire somebody because apparently the last election they had 2,215 duplicates go out for the 2024 presidential election. Having been up to Wisconsin and seen the mail-in ballot process, it wouldn't be very hard to vote duplicate. You would just have to know the identity of someone who's unlikely to vote and put their name on the envelope and send it in, and then you get to vote twice.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jen. And we've both been on the ground there in Wisconsin. And because we, have the secret ballot, there's nothing on the you and I were chatting about this. There's nothing on the ballot that identifies the person, right?
Right.
And so it's just the envelope. And so you can imagine, maybe your husband died. Maybe your husband never votes.
Or your neighbors are on the street aren't going to vote in this election.
Yeah, now you have 2 ballots and you're thinking, okay, who do I know that's not going to vote? And you could fill out the envelope. Now, granted, you'd be committing election fraud.
Yeah, that'd be a crime.
But
you shouldn't do that. But some people aren't above doing that. I mean, if you're going to say that we have all this welfare fraud, we've got SNAP fraud, we've got Medicare fraud, Medicaid fraud, hospice fraud. We have the daycares. We have but wait, no, we don't have election fraud. That never happens. That's the argument they're making. I mean, if people are willing to create all these hospices and bill millions and millions of dollars to
fake
the taxpayer,
fake
daycares, fake hospices, you don't think they're willing to create some fake mail-in ballots and pick their candidate of choice? I mean, do we really have the checks and procedures in place to catch it? I don't feel confident about that, especially for some of these states like California, where you don't show an ID. In Nevada, I went there. It's unbelievable. You can't show an ID. They won't look at your ID. You sign into the voter. If you show up in person, which most people don't because they all get mailed a ballot, you sign the book. And they look at your signature to see if it looks like the signature when you signed up to vote and or drive.
And I think
they won't look at your ID.
Well, and I think the weird part is, while I don't think I have ever, even in observing, I don't think I've ever technically witnessed point blank election fraud. A lot of times we've observed these, the mail-in ballot numbers, and you think about people filling out forms, and it seems awfully strange that in a lot of these places we go and observe, somehow everything is filled out perfectly correctly. Right. And so the error rate is super low, especially in some of these left leaning areas. And you're just thinking, OK, if you give 100 people a form to fill out, even an easy form to fill out, someone is going to leave something blank. Someone is going to mess it up.
There's still a lot of recreational
they don't speak or read English, right?
Yeah. And so it's odd that in a lot of these places you see the error rate and they're magically, thousands and thousands and thousands of people filled out all of the paperwork exactly correctly.
Yeah.
And
that's the way it was in Wisconsin. It was a brand new law. It was kind of complicated. You had to have a witness that had to fill out a section. You had to fill out a section. I memorized every court case, all the new statutes, the new regulations, all these things. Get up there, 0 mistakes. Already had them alphabetized. The game was done before the lawyers even got there. There wasn't much to litigate.
Yeah, and I mean, tell us
There's
we have
nothing to litigate.
tell us we have a tinfoil hat, but I mean, anybody who's interacted with the government and had to fill out a form. I mean, how many times? I mean, I have several degrees.
Oh.
You have. I mean,
Yeah, I'll mess something up.
Oh, yeah,
you
100
forget to check some box. You forget, yeah. So
yeah, you check some box twice. You don't do the proper notarization. The notary messes something up. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why when you fill out forms for the government, things happen and maybe you need to correct it.
And the more time you're allowing when you're having election season, it's more opportunity for there to be fraudulent activity as well.
And again, you don't want people to not be able to vote because they made a simple mistake. And there's a process in the law by which people can cure their ballot. And typically they're notified by the clerk, hey, we got your ballot, but there was a problem or whatever. Usually in that instance, they have a period to either cure their vote or they can come and vote in person on election day and the bad ballot gets tossed out, right? So we still want people to vote. And I'm not saying people should be disenfranchised because they make a mistake. But when you're getting hundreds and thousands of these ballots and there aren't any mistakes, you have to wonder, like, wait a minute, something's weird here. But again, I mean, that is a fairly, I don't want to say not a problem, but like mailing 2 ballots is really bad. And this is why I'm against mail-in ballots in general, I think.
Yeah, California, I mean, they're mailing all kinds of ballots, sometimes 5 different, you can rent a new place and all of a sudden 20 ballots are arriving for all these different people to a residence. And you just have to be on the honor system that someone else isn't going to try to fill those out and vote multiple times. It'll be very hard to figure out who did sometimes if that were to occur.
And I go back and forth. I mean, the Save America Act, we've had the discussion of, several years ago, the Democrats were all about whatever it was, HB1, and they wanted to kind of federalize our elections. And I go back and forth because we were anti-federalizing the elections at that point, and Save America is kind of leaning the other way. But then you hear these stories about when we, and I think that comes
automatically registering people to vote.
Yeah, and I think
they don't speak English in California that might not be citizens.
Well, and I think it comes
you're
from
just like counting on them to know that and not vote.
And I think my position comes from the fact that I'm maybe a little bit biased because we live in Missouri, and I think we run really good elections, whether we're talking about Denny Hoskins as our state leader or whether we're talking about our local county clerks. I think Brianna Lennon in Boone County does a very good job, runs a very tight ship. But then you look at, so I'm thinking we do a great job. I don't want the Fed stepping in. Missouri does a great job. And then you look at these left-leaning states and you think, okay, maybe they need some help because not everyone runs their elections like we do here in Missouri. And I think this whole like duplicate ballot thing is really scary.
It's a little suspicious to me.
Well, it's one of those kind of deals, too. I think looking at it from the outside in, this was Green Bay, and Green Bay isn't Madison or Milwaukee. It's the city is Democratic and liberal, but the county is sort of like Columbia and Boone County, where there's a lot of conservative voters out in the county.
Huh.
But Trump announced...
do they outweigh, the liberals outweigh the conservatives like they do in Boone?
Probably.
Huh.
And didn't Trump announce some sort of like a federal mail list last week, John? It was something about, this mail-in ballot executive order. And there was going to be some sort of national database or something by which you could verify mail-in ballots.
Well, that's part of the whole problem, too. All these states are resisting. They won't tell us who's on SNAP benefits, so it's hard to detect fraud. And we're paying out all this money. The states are just like, we gave this money out, send us a check. And they're refusing to say who's on these different benefits so that we can't check it. Same with the voter rolls. They're having to litigate in like some 38 states or something to get the voter rolls. Harmeet Dillon, who's getting a promotion, by the way. Did you see that?
No.
Exclusively broke on Daily Wire. She's going to be Assistant Attorney General. I don't know if that's actually come to fruition, but they had exclusive reporting on that over the weekend.
Well, there's been a lot of support for her online over the last week since the ouster of Pam Bondi. I pulled up this White House executive order. It was issued last week, and it establishes a state citizenship list by which you can make sure illegals aren't voting. That I don't think that helps us with the sending double ballots to citizens. But of course, I believe the left has, if they haven't already challenged it, they've said they're going to challenge this.
Well, they won't even send
order.
the voter rolls in.
Yeah.
So the Civil Rights Division can do their job under the law and make sure that, they're protecting election integrity. and protecting, voting is a right, a civil right that they're trying to enforce. And it's suspicious to me that even when Democrats overwhelmingly believe in voter ID, just so happens is the Democrats holding office that are vociferously opposed to it. Why would that be? Is that suspicious at all to you, Stephanie, that people who happen to have won an election are the ones that seem to be the most opposed to voter ID sometimes? Even if their people in their party are for it?
And if you look at where the people are, this isn't
as Trump says, because they're cheating.
Yeah, because they're cheating. I think the issue of voter ID is overwhelmingly popular among the people. And I think what we know is, a lot of states, I think at least half of them already have some form of voter ID. Not all, I think it's half have photo ID and others have the old Missouri system where it just has to be a non-photo verification of your address. But, Trump said the Save America Act, he wasn't going to do anything else until that got across the finish line. But now, of course, we've got, the war going on. We've got DHS still shut down. We've got, a war going on between the Senate and the House and how that goes forward. I think maybe they're coming to the Senate position. But it seems like election integrity might be taking a backseat to some of these other issues. And the problem is we have an election coming up.
Yeah, and I think that the administration is still pretty focused on this. Elon Musk is too. It's we have to get this Save America thing done if we want to have a country in the future. While we still have the power to do something about it, we have to save America. And they put in some choice topics like no transing the kids through surgeries, and they added that into it. But do you think, text us and let us know, do you think we should stop with the mail-in ballots? Should that not be alive? 573-874-9390. It's Jennifer Bukowski filling in for Randy Tobler. And even though we aren't doctors here, Stephanie and I, we're going to talk about making America healthy again when we get back here on the Zimmer Radio Network.
It's Wake Up
Back to Wake Up Missouri. It's Jennifer Bukowski filling in for Randy Tobler here with Stephanie Bell, Drake Whitman, John Marsh. And there's some exciting news as we talk about making Missouri healthy again. Very exciting development for the hearing impaired and deaf. Stephanie.
Yes, Jen, we talk a lot here about the excitement of injections. You can now use injections to get skinny, but now you can use an injection to hear again. This is a really exciting development. There's a protein in your inner ear that acts as a courier, and it carries sound signals from your ear to your brain. So if the gene that makes that protein is broken, then the sound gets in your ear, but then the message never gets to your brain. So essentially you're deaf. And so until now, the solution for that has been cochlear implants. This is a major surgery. It costs up to $100,000, and you're relying, on a device for hearing. It's not natural hearing. So this is completely different. Researchers took a harmless virus, loaded it with a working copy of the missing gene, and injected it directly into the inner ear. And that virus delivers a fix. The cell starts producing the right protein, and suddenly that message that wasn't getting to the brain can get to the brain. And this means, no hardware, no batteries, no external device. And it was a very small study. 10 out of 10 patients improved. Some started hearing within 1 month. There was a 7-year-old that was that was previously deaf that started having normal conversations with her mom in just 4 months. And they were worried about it maybe only working in kids, but they said even a 23-year-old who scientists thought might be too old to respond got results. So patients went from not hearing something as loud as a lawnmower to being able to engage in normal conversations. Now, they say there are many different causes for deafness, and this is this specific type of deafness where it's a breakdown in this protein only is about 8% of causes about 8% of cases of deafness. But for those people, this looks like a very promising outcome. And certainly, I think years ago I listened to one of those podcasts on CRISPR. You've heard of those, like gene where they can go in and like edit and cut out genes and replace them. This type of therapy, they're thinking, and I don't know that this is CRISPR related. They don't specifically mention that, but this type of gene modification to like kind of naturally fix things that we previously didn't have a fix for is really exciting. And they're thinking the FDA is fast tracking the approvals, and yeah, they're excited about kind of this first step in curing things that they previously thought were uncurable.
Yeah, this is exciting. Talk about a change to those kids' lives. They had another study, it looks like, where 11 out of 12 participants had clinically meaningful hearing gains, with some achieving near normal hearing levels and better speech perception, including in noise and music appreciation, often outperforming or matching cochlear implants. And the improvements appeared within weeks to a month. So these two studies are, the opportunities that are presented to fix all kinds of things. If you can just inject a mutated gene into the cochlear implant, that I guess this gene had been making it so the inner ear hairs weren't able to transmit the sounds to the brain, and this gene thing fixes it.
Yeah,
it's
and they
wild.
did say, I mean, and I think again, going back to this CRISPR analysis and gene editing, I know they're always concerned, genes are kind of, very fundamental to your body. And one of the concerns is, if we start editing your genes, what are the side effects? And they did note in this study that thus far they haven't seen any side effects from injecting this virus directly into the inner ear. So really groundbreaking.
And speaking of injections, apparently one thing that a lot of people have been injecting, you might be able to get in a pill format. Eli Lilly has developed a once daily pill for weight loss, which got approval from U.S. drug regulators on Wednesday. This is creating a battle with another company, Novo Nordisk, which has been selling a pill version of Wegovy since the beginning of this year. But a lot of the people, they don't like the GLP-1 aspect where you have to jab a needle in your body someplace.
Yeah, imagine if you could just wake up and like a vitamin, pop a pill and be skinny.
That would
cure things like diabetes and all of the other ills that come with, being overweight.
Those folks are going to get rich. All right, we're going to talk more Iran and the top topics of the day when we get back on Wake Up Missouri, Zimmer Radio Network.
Headquarters.
Mr. Woods, though he's been charged with DUI.
It's your morning addiction. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell.
This has to end. You know, we have a core responsibility to keep our government open.
The Zimmer News Team.
Ultimately, the reason why Cuba's a disaster is because their economic system doesn't work.
And now, introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Allah on Easter, he's triggering the Iranians. Like, I think, what do you think, John? Do you think he's actually praising Allah or being facetious in that post?
No, it's just, it's classic Donald Trump, when he drops the F-bomb and the next sentence says, praise be to Allah, it's pretty obvious where he's coming from.
Yeah. Well, we had a daring rescue of both of our pilots, and a lot of people are saying this could be in a movie. This part of the story, I'm going to be curious to see how they explain in the movie. Apparently, Iran, they found the F-15 pilot's underwear, and it's been the best marketing that American Eagle could have dreamed of. They've sold out of them. They're like American flag boxer shorts, and it says Eagle, American Eagle on the waistband, and now they're totally sold out online. But how do you lose your underwear when you're parachuting? Like, how did that work? Was he running around naked? Like, how's this happening? What do you think, John? It's hard to imagine. Like,
ejecting from a fighter jet's pretty darn violent, and I guess if it skins off your skivvies,
or you
live
soil
to tell
yourself.
about it.
I don't know. You are like, okay, I can't. I would not. That would happen to me probably. I would be needing new underwear if I had to inject myself from a jet that's going 1,000 miles into an enemy country. Yeah, that might scare the you-know-what out of me.
For sure.
But they don't look dirty in this picture that they're holding up. So, like, the Iranians have found these undies by American Eagle. They're joyfully holding these puppies up, and they look pretty happy about it, and they don't look like they're in bad shape at all.
Or maybe it's maybe it's part of the whole, maybe it's a tactic. Maybe you bring extra undies and you leave a trail, to throw them off. Like, I was over here. Maybe you have some extra clothing to leave behind to put them on the wrong hunt.
They are kind of cool looking. I'd buy this for my husband, but now they're sold out. They were $15.95, and now they're unavailable on
there's going to be a whole bunch of dupes, and everyone on 4th of July is going to be wearing those.
Yeah, that's new. But I would love, as we find out more about this during rescue, so many different aspects of the government were involved to rescue the Israeli intelligence, CIA, drones, jet planes, helicopters. Everybody came together to get our boys out of there safely. But I would have not heard any explanation as to how one lost his amazing American flag underwear along the way. That's a different way to plant your flag in a place, isn't it?
Again, reasons why this should be made into the movie, and they should not forget the underwear detail.
Yeah,
we want to know the explanation.
And cast someone cute, too, if you're going to have him stripped down out of his skivvies in the movie. But I think Trump means it when he says he will unleash its military power if they don't open the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, I'd never even heard of, I won't lie, I'd never even heard of the Strait of Hormuz until recently, I don't think. But now it's become a pretty big deal, and Trump is mad about our European allies not coming to our aid. And Marco Rubio is talking about it's time to pull U.S. troops out of Europe. Check this out. Oh, here we go. I got to open. Sometimes it lets you play it, and sometimes it doesn't.
NATO. And I've been a big supporter of NATO. And one of the reasons why I've been a supporter of NATO is because I believe that these basing rights give us leverage and give us flexibility and operational capability all over the world. But if NATO is just about us defending Europe if they're attacked, but them denying us basing rights when we need them, that's not a very good arrangement. That's a hard one to stay engaged in and say this is good for the United States. So all of them's going to have to be reexamined. All of it's going to have to be reexamined.
I like that, Rubio and Trump, they're good at looking at the big picture, and they're not afraid to be decisive and make big moves and big decisions and force our allies into action. But they've been very disappointed with the response with this Iran situation with the Europeans. Whereas Japan and America, did you see this? They opened up the Twitter between the two. The Japanese love America.
Yeah.
It's like the most wholesome thing I've seen on Twitter ever. They have country music scenes. Like, they dress up. They sing our songs. They dress like Elvis, and they meet. They have a whole, especially with Texas. They love Texans. And so there's been a love affair online between Americans and Japanese. And it's refreshing to see people who actually love us and love, like, the red parts of our country and don't look down on us like the Europeans seem to do sometimes.
And we talked about this earlier. Europeans are just wusses. Like, they're just, that's like, it's innate, I think. And so, and they just hate Trump. But Marco Rubio and Trump are saying, like, something that is so common sense. Like, whether you're in a romantic relationship, a friendship, like, this relationship that we have with the Europeans is a one-way street, and that's no relationship at all.
No.
So, like, what are we doing here, folks? It doesn't make any sense. And so why are we continuing to come to your aid, continuing to help you? Again, like, and you're doing what for us? It's got to be mutually beneficial. And I think before it was just that they weren't coming to our aid, and now they're, like, actually obstructing us from
Spain, for example.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we can't use our airbase. So it's like, okay, we're not trading with you anymore. And then, now we can use their airbase. If you're just going against this, Jennifer McCaskey and for Randy.
Yeah, look a few years back when the Russians were, heavily going after Ukraine, and we had a lot of U.S. troops who immediately went to the Polish-Ukraine border right there. And, there was a lot of hue and cry by the NATO member countries of who's going to protect us if the Russians decide to keep on coming. And that was the U.S. who saw a lot of our troops that weren't only stationed there briefly, but extended their stays for quite some time especially in Poland.
Well, another thing Rubio did was yanked the green cards of these two babes in California who were the niece and grandniece of Soleimani, and showing off their lavish lifestyle. Their boobs are hanging out in half these photos, getting on and off helicopters, wearing Louis Vuitton, and all the while saying that America, where they live, is the great Satan, and and promoting the IRGC. These babes would be beaten and raped in prison if they wore what they wore over in their own country that they're apparently proud of. Why don't you go put your burqa back on and head home then? And that's what Rubio is basically saying to them. And I'm here for it because, these Muslim women of privilege that are able to escape and live in a Western free area and then still promote their horrible regimes that other women who aren't as privileged have to live under the thumb of. They're the worst kind of hypocrite women in my book. They're worse than, I consider myself a Karen now, I've decided, but they're worse than
Jen's wearing the label
liberal
proudly.
White women. They're worse than all of it because they are actually, like, perpetuating something that they know well is evil and, like, completely oppressing and harming women that would lead them to get beaten and raped if they wore that same thing. But then they're saying, down with America, and yay regime while they're living in California.
And this is something you've been concerned about for a very long time, Jen. I remember years ago you were telling me how you were reading books about the women and how they are treated over there. And I mean, you're right. It's hypocritical and
talk about racism. The reason that no one talks about it is because it's not happening to white people, I think. Like, they're like, so I think, that is an actual place where we can point out in our society that we're willfully blind to something that's, you're having two castes of people based on immutable characteristics, the sex they're born, and one gets to be slaves and the other's not. And that's not okay. That's gender apartheid, and it's evil and wrong, but we just ignore it because it's not having the... But, oh, God forbid, like, there's some sect of Mormons somewhere where they have multiple wives or something. Then, oh, Christian men, they're the worst. That's the message they put out there. It's interesting. It's interesting logic that the liberals have sometimes, isn't it?
So what's happening to these two gals?
They are getting their green cards revoked because they had the audacity to post about their lavish lifestyle and also calling for the downfall of America. So Marco Rubio's like, it's a privilege being here, and you're gone. They've been detained, and they are being deported. So hopefully they enjoy putting their hijabs back on. And I bet there's some ire for them from their fellow females when they get home.
You would think so.
I would definitely think so. And where are they getting all this money? Like, that they're living... I mean, these are some really lavish lifestyles in their now deleted social media posts, which, of course, the Daily Mail grabbed up before they could delete them all. Gotta love me some Daily Mail sometimes. All right. Well, I know this happened a couple weeks ago now, but Tiger Woods got the DUI. His body cam video came out of it, and I've got some thoughts about this one. We've got to talk about that next when we get back here on Wake Up Missouri. You won't believe who he called.
It's Wake Up.
Back is Jennifer Bukowski in for Randy Tobler, and here with Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Drake Whitman, and Tiger Woods is in trouble. We knew that, but we got the video of it too, and I got a couple of clips to play with you, Stephanie, because we got to talk about this. Here is Tiger Woods explaining what happened a little bit. This is him taking a field sobriety test, actually. He's really struggling to do that one. But he says that he was on his phone at one point, and then at one point during the encounter, somehow he has this Range Rover on its side, which those vehicles are over $100,000, and they're meant to like go up mountains and stuff. So how he flipped that thing on its side is kind of a feat in and of itself, a trick shot there, as it were. But then he wanders off during this, it started as an accident investigation and turned into a DUI arrest. But here's him coming back to talk to police. You see the officer walking up, and Tiger Woods is down the road on the phone.
Get you to hang out down here with us, please.
Thank you so much. All right, you got it. All right, thank you. Bye. Say again?
Just keep you down here with us, please.
Yeah, I was just talking to the president. Trying to get away from everybody.
Did you hear what he said? Who was he just talking to? When he
big guy.
He flicks his arms up and he
down
says,
here with us, please.
Yeah, I was just talking to the president.
Do you hear the tone in his voice? I was just talking to the president. I was just, one more time. Here we go.
Yeah, I was just talking to the president.
Oh, nonchalant. I was just talking to the president. Doesn't President Donald Trump have better things to do than to deal with your possible DUI?
But isn't
arrest
his
here, buddy?
daughter dating Tiger Woods?
His
ex-daughter-in-law.
Whatever
but they're all
it is.
close. The mom of 5 kids from Donald Trump Jr., including Kai, who I suspect is Donald Trump's favorite grandchild.
Of course.
She's an amazing golfer. She's an influencer on TikTok, and she really steals the show. Like, I watched that Melania movie, and she's never even brought up, but she's in some of the shots, and your just eyes are naturally drawn to her. She's a
I wonder if Tiger
star.
and the president maybe had a tea time or something that he had to cancel.
Hey, there's a good defense attorney vibe from John Marsh. I like it. Yeah, maybe there's a legitimate reason for him to call Donald Trump when this all
it
went
was
down.
like, you're going to leave the president hanging where you don't have your foursome ready to go.
Yeah, that makes more sense then.
It seems...
But it's just it's not a good look. It's not helpful for your criminal defense attorney. Everyone knows that you know the president down there in Florida, okay? You don't need to, throw that in anyone's face.
A lot of the celebrities are like, when they get pulled over, do you know who I am? Wasn't it Justin Timberlake who was just caught on video? And he was like, they're like, what are you doing? And he's like, this is weird, but I was on a world tour, or I'm on a world tour. Why these guys are driving themselves is beyond me. But also, Jennifer, it seems weird that he would refuse the breathalyzer, refuse the pee test, but do the field sobriety test, right?
He did the
he did the breathalyzer. That's right.
He knew he hadn't drank anything, so he passed that. But if you're looking at him, I'm trying to find. Here's the one I think where he talks about.
But he wouldn't
was on
let
his
them
phone.
take a blood draw or a urine sample, right?
Yeah, I think Florida. The reporting I heard of Florida had just changed their law, attaching some much stricter penalties to the whole blood test side of things.
Yeah. And so he's going to be losing his license because they have implied consent down there in Florida for that. If they have a drug recognition expert like the female that arrives on scene, I believe was the drug recognition expert, they said it's narco. You can just look based on the behaviors, the way he's doing his fists. I mean, he does not look like he's all. I mean, he was just in Iraq. I guess, that can rattle you. But here, this is the one I think where he's also making inculpatory statements, in my opinion. Here we go.
Down my phone, and all of a sudden, boom. Let me just take a look.
I was looking at my phone.
I was looking down at my phone, and all of a sudden, boom. Don't say that. Don't say that, guys. There's your free legal advice of the day. Keep your mouth shut. All right. We'll be right back with another hot topic on Wake Up Missouri. Wake up, Missouri. It's fun to be here with Stephanie Bell. I'm Jennifer Bukowski in for Randy. For John Marsh is here, Drake Whitman too. You know, Gavin Newsom, a lot of people think he's good looking. I'm a little biased against him, so I don't see it. But
he looks like a cartoon character.
He's very proud of his hair. I know that. I read his whole book, and he talks about
You
his
would.
look.
You're
Yeah.
always harping on me to read the books of the enemies. And I will tell you, I think you're right on that. I have not yet read his book. Have you read Kamala's book?
Yeah, both of
gosh.
them. Okay, this is coming in handy yet again because now the first partner of California, Jennifer Newsom, she goes by first partner, not first lady.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
First partner of California has some thoughts about Nome and Bondi getting fired. Are you ready for this? Here we go. Let's listen to what this fount of wisdom has to say on the matter.
Trust me, I'm not a fan of Pam Bondi nor Kristi Noem. But I need to call out that it's no surprise to me that the first two prominent people pushed out of this administration were women. Let me explain. The conservative women that Trump handpicks, who align themselves with an agenda that controls women, restricting our rights, limiting our autonomy, and pushing us back into this straitjacket of femininity that is only in service of men. There's a
The straitjacket, I just had to pause it. The straitjacket of femininity. Okay, here we go.
familiar pattern here. Women are brought in, packaged Mar-a-Lago style, and lifted up as long as they commit to wholeheartedly serve the interests of the patriarch at the top. Now, it looks like power, or proximity to power with a big title, but it never comes with job security and protection. There's no secure place inside this hand-picked patriarchal body that systemically disrespects, devalues, and discriminates against women and girls.
Okay, there's no place in this administration, this patriarchal body. Okay. First of all, she says that you're shackled. What did she say about the femininity? She's got long blonde. She looks like she could go to Mar-a-Lago right now. Jennifer Newsom does.
Yeah, she said
Like,
they
you'd
were
fit right in
packaged
down
up
there.
Mar-a-Lago style.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would fit right in.
You would fit right in. You're shackled by your femininity too, then. I mean, she's such a hypocrite because she produces all of these documentaries about, the gender roles and how more is expected of women and that's wrong. And all the while, Gavin Newsom says in his book he changed less than 5 diapers. I think they have 4 children. Changed less than 5 diapers total.
You got to be kidding me.
So I think you're conforming way more than I did, honey, to some gender roles. You know, my husband changed far more diapers than that. How about yours?
A lot more than that.
Yeah.
A lot more than that.
So this is just so typical of the left to be like having such double standards and calling different people out. And also, hello, it's not... Trump doesn't have a problem with putting women in power. Susie Wiles
is
his
running the
chief
whole show.
of staff. Caroline Leavitt is his spokesperson or does the press. And then we have a lot of other members of cabinet. You just only know about them because they're the prettiest ones, you know. But we have the Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez de Raymer. You have Linda McMahon, who is one of the most low, undervalued, I think, members of. I just would love, if I could have lunch with anyone, she's definitely on my top 5 of people I would pick. She seems super cool.
Well, and the other comment she made was, well, there's just no job security. You're like, there shouldn't be job security when you're in the president's cabinet. Yeah. You shouldn't be guaranteed a job just because you're a woman. And you and whether or not you're a woman or a man, that was part of the problem with Biden's administration is they didn't hold anybody accountable for making mistakes.
100%.
There is no question that when you're talking about doing the job, Pam Bondi made some mistakes. Kristi Noem, some mistakes, right? And they should be treated like anyone else in the cabinet. And if you're not, and we heard it from Aaron Hedlund at Lincoln Days last week. The president wants to see a whole list of promises made, promises kept. And if you're not holding up to those standards, if you're making mistakes, then regardless of your gender, sorry, you're gone.
Yeah, the men in the cabinet or in leadership positions are in the same job security situation. They serve at the will of the president, at the pleasure of the president, and if he decides that you are not doing your job to his standards, then it's his prerogative to fire you, and that is actually his job and his responsibility to do so, regardless of your gender. And that's the problem with the left. They would have kept incompetent people in positions because they don't want to fire people who are women or people of color or different things, even if they aren't doing their job right, because it's more about your place on the scale of victimology.
And she doesn't mention,
whether or not you get a job or keep your job.
I mean, the Trump's also look at who he's criticized. That's a man. He's all over Jerome Powell, right? Pete Hegseth just asked that male general to step down because he didn't like what he was doing. I mean, we can point to a whole bunch of other instances where, they've criticized or asked men to step aside who they feel like aren't doing a good job.
Yeah, unfortunately, it has not been nearly as tumultuous this time around in the 47th administration as it was with the 45th, when they didn't know what they were doing as much and they let too many of the swamp creatures into the administration from jump, and they had to fire a lot more people who then ran off and wrote books and stuff like that. These firings have gone more smoothly, and he's been able to keep people inside the tent and not having them attack. But the Small Business Administration cabinet member is a woman, Kelly Loeffler. There are women all over this administration. Harmeet Dillon just got a promotion. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, exactly right, John. There's so many really top-notch people, and it's just a talented team of individuals. But Kristi Noem, I tried not to badmouth her leading up, but I was never that excited about her spending all those millions promoting herself, dressing up in all the costumes, pretending like she's going off on the SWAT raids and the different things. I thought it was just over the top, and I wasn't excited about that. It had nothing to do with her balloon wearing husband. That story blew my mind last week. Did you guys see that thing? If you're just joining us, it's Jennifer Bukowski and Stephanie Bell. Gavin Newsom's wife thinks it's sexist that Trump fired these people. And I believe you guys talked about this last week, but I think it's worth visiting again. Here's some resurfaced video of Jennifer Newsom talking that went viral on X in the past few days. Check this out.
I've given our boys dolls, even if they tear the head off. I've given them dolls to learn that care and caregiving is not just an activity that's reserved for women, but that it's also an activity that is a responsibility of men. What I've done with both my daughters and my sons is, if I'm reading a book and the protagonist is a male, I just change the he to a she. And it just normalizes for my sons in particular.
Okay. As a mom of boys, this really irritates me because she's the mom of boys, and you're telling me that even when you find a book or a movie where you have a good guy, male protagonist, you're not sharing that story with your son to be an example? When my sons were growing up, we were in that phase where there weren't any movies where it wasn't a girl heroine, hardly at all. When you came across one, you're like, thank goodness, let's watch this one again in the theater, because they made the boys bad in all the cartoon movies. It was just I wouldn't have noticed it, except I had two little boys that we were taking to the theater, and I wanted them to have people to look up to and heroes to, read about. But she changed them all to girls. So what message are you sending your sons? The boys aren't heroes?
It's ridiculous. I suggested a book series that we used when the kids were little and that I really liked. They're called the I Am series, and they're written by Brad Meltzer. And they talk historically. They're mostly historically accurate, but they kind of have a story about various figures, men and women, that you can read about. So they've got I am Albert Einstein, I am Martin Luther King, I am Anne Frank, I am Rosa Parks. And I think reading stories to your boys about boys being really influential in history and women being really influential in history is one way that you can say anyone can be a hero, whether you're white, black, male, female. And we read these same books to my girls to tell them the same thing, right?
That's a great recommendation.
Yeah, and you can, I love these books. I am Jackie Robinson, I am Jim Henson, I am Abraham Lincoln, and they teach some kids some really important stories. I would highly recommend them. But I think, teaching your kids that whether you're a girl or a boy, you can, be a hero, you can change history is really important. But I think changing every story to say girls good, boys bad is not the parenting strategy I would use.
If you have
it seems
thoughts,
like
you
you'd
can text us.
confuse them, right?
Yeah. If you have thoughts, you can text us 573-874-9390. I think David heard me taken out of context. She said, Christian men are the worst. Thanks for that slime, Jennifer. I was paraphrasing what the other side says, like that Christian men are the worst. Like they,
Yeah.
cast aspersions on Christian men constantly. And so I was not actually saying that I do not believe Christian men are the worst. Far from it. They're the best. They're the best. All right. Well, Jennifer Newsom. I think she's going to be a liability to Gavin Newsom.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
She keeps popping her mouth off.
What do you think the conversation? I mean, she's been all over Twitter lately. What do you think the conversation behind closed doors is between her and Gavin? Like, honey, can you please?
I think the lib base likes her.
You think?
I think she's still kind of hitting some of the company talking points, if you will.
They're an attractive couple. I think that superficial people will like that about those two. But yeah, I think she's a hypocrite because she's bashing the women on the right, fitting into this, Mar-a-Lago, whatever. You are also having the long blonde hair, wearing feminine clothes and everything else. So why are you talking about us like we're doing something wrong when you're doing it?
And
Such a hypocrite. It irritates me.
Well, and kids learn by example, not by just the way you talk. And there she is saying, I give my boys dolls so they know that women are not the only caregivers. And what'd you say? They've admitted that.
In Gavin Newsom's book, he said he changed less than 5 diapers.
Lead by example, not just by your
I believe
performances
it was less than 5. I need
and
to pull
words.
that up. But yeah,
please.
basically, he was gone all the time when the kids were little, and she was doing
all of the caregiving.
Yeah. So you're conforming to more than this lady on the right did. So take that, Jennifer Newsom, and shove it.
And I think for a lot of people, they would say, we don't have it. Like, if you're a caregiver, that's awesome, right? Like, if that's the role in your house, like, don't be embarrassed by it. There are certain situations where, that situation comes up.
And it works.
And it'd be okay to talk about women having nurturing qualities and that we are, made more nurturing than boys. And that's something that's okay.
It's okay. And don't be a hypocrite, Jennifer Newsom. All right, next up, that would be all. But what, John?
Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. If you can find one.
All right. Yum, yum. That's up next on Wake Up Missouri.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
except for this.
As we first reported, over 400,000 units or 13 tons of Kit Kat bars were stolen in Europe. The chocolate-covered wafers nabbed in transit on their way from Italy to Poland. Stolen sweets were not the typical log-shaped wafers, but special Formula One car-shaped Kit Kat bars. Thieves are still on the run. Nestle, the company that distributes Kit Kats, launched a tracker website which says, help us find them. Use the stolen Kit Kat tracker. They say if a number is confirmed to be from the stolen batch, the consumer or retailer will be given clear instructions on how to alert Kit Kat, who will then share the evidence appropriately. Meanwhile, the social media folks not quiet. Domino's, Outback, PayPal have also offered condolences. The latest, a little light roasting. Bad time to roll out our Kit Kat pancakes, huh? According to Denny's. But the Kit Kats are still on the run, I guess.
Yeah, do you send a pet person, dog catcher to get the Kit Kat bars? I don't know. That's a lot of Kit Kats. Someone's got to know something.
You would think.
13 tons of Kit Kats. That's a lot of Kit Kats.
Yeah, we've been talking about like thieves lately because we had the casino robbery, right? And you think, yeah, they do have a lot of cash, but they also have a lot of cameras. Then we reported on the guy in Colombia who's not charged yet, right? Brian told us, right, John? He's not charged, but it's alleged that he was stealing the coins out of the parking meters. And I'm thinking that seems like a lot of work for not a lot of change. And again, here, it's like you got a lot of Kit Kats, which should be worth a lot of money. But what, are you going to resell them at like $2 a bar to recoup your, like, what do you do with those?
And they're not the run-of-the-mill ones. They're these super limited edition ones where you can put them in a freezer somewhere for 10 years and sell them off as collectibles.
Can you eat a Kit Kat 10 years? What's the expiration date on a Kit Kat?
I think chocolate lasts about a year max, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gets kind of gross.
Those packaged candies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pushing it too. It's probably more like 9
I
months.
think the moral of the story is...
How long would you eat?
Yeah, I don't think I would want to eat Kit Kats that are old.
If it's Easter, the Christmas chocolate needs to go. If it's, Halloween, the Easter stuff's got to go. That's kind of my rule of thumb.
Yeah, and I think the moral of the story is that criminals don't always think things through. They're not the smartest.
Yeah.
In each of these situations.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just super hungry. Stephanie, you ever think of that? Like 13 tons? I mean, you've got to be pretty hungry, right?
I mean, I haven't checked your pockets lately.
I say one thing on the show today, and I'm catching flack. No, I'm actually not a big Kit Kat guy. I don't like Kit Kats.
Really?
No.
I think
I
they're
love
delicious. Kit Kats. Yeah. What's better than a Kit Kat?
Like every other chocolate candy that you can get.
Really?
Yeah, I do not like.
What did the Easter Bunny bring you?
I'm not going to say on air because it's pretty bad for my health.
Yeah. I had some of those Reese's.
The Reese's eggs are the best.
They're a weakness.
That and the Starburst.
I gave my kids that I stole them out of their basket, one of them last night.
I love it.
I bought these. I'm going to take one.
That and the Starburst jelly beans is what I'm always looking forward to on Easter.
I like those Cadbury eggs with the shell.
No way.
Oh my God. They're like big M&Ms. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Those are the best.
No, thank you.
This is why I put on weight. We've had a bowl of those in my kitchen, and I need to stop doing
and
that.
And it's my favorite time to make my favorite cake, which I always catch flack for, and I haven't made it, so I got to put it on my list for next week, is a carrot cake. I think carrot cake is at the top of the list for me, the best cake.
That's my son's favorite cake.
Really?
Yeah.
So good. I can't wait.
I think it's a great one for Easter time as
Exactly.
well. They actually sold out at Honey Baked Ham.
I don't know if it's the actual carrot cake or if it's the cream cheese frosting that really makes it good, but
how about crumbled up stolen Kit Kats on top of one?
That'd be good in a blizzard, too. All right. Well, next up, I'm excited that Jill Schluty is coming in to talk about this fast-growing public safety drug being sold at gas stations to kids. We're going to talk about that next with Police Chief Jill Schluty.
American.
It's your morning addiction. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell.
It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home.
The Zimmer News Team.
But also it's something Americans can rally around with confidence.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Good morning. Welcome. It's Jennifer Bukowski in for Randy, here with Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, Drake Whitman. Later, we're going to talk interior designer legislation, as well as a potential shakeup at the DOJ involving a friend of ours. But for now, there's this fast-growing public safety and health issue hitting Missouri communities, kratom, and its much more potent derivative 7-OH. These are plant-based products that are sold openly in gas stations, smoke shops, and online, often in gummies, shots, or candy-like packaging, and they have some powerful effects to boost energy and ease pain, but also they're dangerous and addictive as well. So to give us a law enforcement perspective on this hot topic, we are joined by Police Chief Jill Schluty. Jill, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning. So our Attorney General Catherine Hanaway spoke at Lincoln Days on last week in Boone County and mentioned that she filed suit against the makers of kratom and 7-OH under the Unfair Merchandising Practices Act because we have not yet made these drugs that are being sold at gas stations illegal. There's legislation in the works to do so. But are you seeing any of this stuff being sold in Columbia? And what, if any, impact does it have on your ability to do law enforcement in our community?
Oh, absolutely. We're seeing it sold at quite a few locations across the city and the county, actually. And this really reminds me of the bath salts, issue that came up several years ago. It's very similar in the sense that it wasn't regulated. It was a large synthetic issue, and the proliferation of the sales was very, very large and wide across the city until it became regulated. So the tough thing for us is, this isn't something we can test for. I'm not aware of any tests that they do in the hospital necessarily that the police would have access to. We certainly encounter people that are having some symptoms that are consistent with the side effects that you read about.
Yeah. Are you seeing any uptick in calls or overdoses or seizures involving kratom or 7-OH? And it's my understanding that 7-OH is made of the same stuff, but much more potent and dangerous. Is that right?
Yes. And what's hard for us to tell is a lot of the symptoms that present are very similar to an opioid overdose. When they're taken at that level, they do recommend, we'll try, because obviously the officer or the firefighter, the medic that shows up doesn't know, so they'll try to use Narcan that can have some positive effect. Huh. But there's really no way for us to differentiate unless we obviously find evidence at the scene of what type of drug they've taken. It's tough for us to tell, but I'll tell you, the price point that these pills are sold at in gas stations and just the availability, you've kind of removed that, hey, I got to go find somebody who can sell me fentanyl or heroin, and I've got to take that risk of dealing with those people when you can just walk up or drive up to the gas station and buy a few pills that may have the same effect that you're looking for.
Chief, talk to us about dealing with this kind of thing. There's so much that goes in the mix for officers to be aware of. This seems like it just adds another level of something to keep in your toolbox to have to be aware of.
Anytime we encounter, especially these synthetic drugs that seem to come in cycles on the market, we always are looking for spikes in certain things. And like I mentioned, it's going to be hard in this case for us to really differentiate at the law enforcement level. I think at the health level, they'll be able to have a little bit more data about, is it fentanyl? Is it heroin? Is it 3-OH? Which one of those is it? I think the wastewater testing aspect of this could be very interesting if that's something that would be available to start trying to figure out, what is the saturation in different communities of this. But it's definitely concerning. I mean, when we were dealing with bath salts, we had some pretty serious situations of people using those. And I think the unfortunate thing is some people just see this as a legal or easier way to address pain management, or some people even, the addiction impact of this is huge, like Jennifer mentioned. And 12 states have already outlawed it. I'm hoping Missouri goes that route. I know there's some jurisdictions in Missouri. I think Chesterfield has already passed an city ordinance against some of the sales. So I would see Columbia probably at least having that conversation if something doesn't happen at the state level.
If you're just joining us, it's Jennifer Bukowski in for Randy. We're talking to Police Chief Jill Schluty about kratom and its cousin 7-OH, which is even more potent, and the presence of it in our community.
So with new things popping up, obviously, you have to be trained, but you also have to have boots on the ground and officers there to do this. Talk to us about your current staffing levels and how that's going. It's been a hot topic as of recent, not only in Columbia, but, nationwide.
Sure. Currently today we have 12 vacancies. We can hire, the most officers we can hire on the force from the chief down right now is 185. We have 12 vacancies. We just started a new academy. We have 8 recruits in that academy. Okay. So we're already in the process of recruiting for the next academy, which will be this fall. But our numbers look really good. It's just we're in that interim time of we have a lot of folks that are in training and in the academy, and those numbers impact the number of officers that are actually on the street because they're not fully trained and out there on their own yet. I think we're getting there, but I think that the bigger and obviously more complex conversation we're going to have as a community is about how do we increase the staffing of the police department to levels that we're able to provide the type of service I think that people in the community are asking for.
Chief, back to this kratom and 7-OH issue. Several Missouri cities like Kansas City and Blue Springs have passed local ordinances banning the synthetic 7-OH, that's the more addictive, more dangerous one, and putting strict rules on the kratom sales, like you have to be 21, it can't look like candy. Is Columbia looking at doing anything similar, or are we just waiting on the legislature to figure out whether to make this illegal or for 21 and up?
So I'm a member of the Missouri Police Chiefs Association, and we have meetings usually about every other month. And this came up at one of our meetings last year, and I actually had an opportunity to speak with the chief in Chesterfield, where they had already, I think they were actually the first municipality to pass an ordinance kind of trying to regulate some of this. And so I was able to talk with her. She sent me a copy of their ordinance. And so we've been looking at that. Once we knew there was something in the state legislature, we're really hoping there'll be a state remedy. That's obviously a more consistent remedy for us, especially across, the city versus the county. We've encountered different times where, something can't be sold or it's regulated to a certain age in the city, but maybe the county doesn't have the same rules, and you literally have one gas station right across the street from another one.
That's true. So true.
Yes, a state remedy would be preferable, but I think if that does not happen for some reason, I'm very hopeful that it will. I think we'll be having a local conversation about some type of ordinance.
Well, given that a lot of these products seem to be packaged to attract young people, do you have any advice for what parents should be on the lookout for to see if whether their kid is dabbling with these addictive new chemical drug type things?
I know it's unpopular nowadays, especially, but being a nosy parent is a good thing. Mm-hmm. So paying attention to what your kids have, what they're buying at gas stations, what they're getting from friends. That's another great way they get a hold of it. Asking questions if you find packages, probably just an education aspect with kids. I think the unfortunate thing about products like this is people just assume if it's sold in a legal gas station, well, it must be okay. And the reality is it's far from that. The legislation and the even vetting through the DEA and the FDA, that's always light years behind these products coming out and being sold, unfortunately. So I think having good conversation with your kids about, hey, don't just put anything in your body. You need to be very selective about what that is and honest with them about the potential side effects.
I think that's so important. Give us an update on the kind of broken window theory. You announced, I think now it's been several months ago, that Columbia was going to start cracking down on even the smaller things. How are we tracking that? And have you seen a benefit from cracking down on even the smallest offenses?
We really kind of started using that tool downtown last summer, and it had a really good impact. I think it's something that I would like to see us engage in more as our ranks are bolstered, especially at the beat level. And that doesn't necessarily always mean writing tickets or making arrests, but it does mean paying attention to the smaller details of what's going on in a particular area. I think you can track that kind of through our data dashboard. If you look at crimes against society, a lot of those crimes that we're talking about, which are liquor law violations, weapons possession violations, drug violations as far as possession, trespassing, some lower level things that we might not encounter if we weren't going out and having proactive contact with people. Those numbers will be lower when we're not doing that. Obviously, we're coming into our busy season. As it warms up, we always get busier. And so I anticipate those contacts going up. Very proud of the work the folks are doing out there on the street. We get a lot of complaints about traffic and driving. I think we've increased. In 2023, we did a little less than 4,000 traffic enforcement stops. Last year in 2025, we did almost 19,000.
Wow.
So the folks that are out there working are really concentrating. So when people ask me, are we doing anything about this crazy driving in Columbia? I say, yes, we're trying. And that does include expired temp tags and plates. I always get asked about that.
You too. I've seen you get asked about that.
Yes.
What is it about? What is it about the warm weather that makes people want to do crimes?
There's been tons of studies about this over the year. And I think in Columbia, it's actually really interesting. We tend to have a little bit more activity even in the early fall, so September and October. Being a college town, how do those things interact? Stop days coming up in May. I'm not calling it reading day. That's a lie. That's never been called.
No one's reading.
I have not seen anybody reading. If they are, they're not where I am, which is good. I just think the warm weather brings more people out. People are more active. They're more, I would say the alcohol consumption is probably obviously a piece of that too. That's something we encounter with some frequency, but there's just a lot of data about why crime increases when it gets hotter in different places. I think in Columbia, even though a lot of students leave during the summer, we still have a lot more people that stay around than we used to. And so I think we're starting to see increased numbers of people also just in the city. And we have a lot of events that happen as well. So we keep a close eye on those stats. We're actually transitioning to a new records management system in August. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to have even better data in the months to come so that we can really keep an eye on what those trends are.
God, you're telling me this, and I'm just thinking, gosh, college was fun. Police.
And adulting is hard.
Yeah. Stop Day. I miss Stop Day. Police Chief Jill Schluty, thank you so much for joining us on Wake Up Missouri.
Jennifer, if you want to come ride with somebody on Stop Day, you are more than welcome.
Oh, okay. Challenge accepted.
There you go.
We'll be back with the Morning Bell next on the Zimmer Radio Network.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
whole big changes. I kind of worried with Trump's tweet over the weekend, Jennifer, about we're coming for you, F word, whatever, that, typically when Trump signals that the war is not over and that additional action is coming, people get nervous, and that tends to send the stock market going down. Although I think the stock market's been reacting to the potential of the Strait of Hormuz not being open. And so maybe the fact that he was saying we're going to do what we can to get it back open is kind of giving us a little bit of positive movement, because certainly what we're learning is that oil market is a global market. And despite Trump saying that we have our own oil, it's certainly been affecting the prices. We've been watching them pretty closely. I think this morning I saw, $3.35 maybe? But, gas prices are high. John, what have you been seeing?
Saw $3.59 coming in this morning.
Yikes. Okay, so hopefully we'll get some relief there soon. But on the heels of Jennifer talking about Jennifer Newsom's comments about how we're just cogs in the patriarchy, I wanted to get to this business news story because what we are finding out is the biggest, hottest growth story in sports right now is not the NFL. It's not the NBA. It is women's sports. And if you're not paying attention to women's sports, then who cares? Because Wall Street is paying attention to women's sports. So since 2022, investment in women's sports teams has exploded. It's up 227% annually. That's huge. And that's venture.
From like $100 to $227.
Well, we're going to get there, Jennifer. But this is venture capital level growth in sports. What we're seeing is the WNBA shattered its attendance record with a month still left in the season. The National Women's Soccer League packed 63,000 fans into a stadium in Denver. And this weekend, a professional women's hockey league game sold out at Madison Square Garden. So the people are paying attention, and this increased attention by the people in women's sports is why we are seeing increased dollars into the sports. So McKinsey is saying that U.S. women's sports market is on track to hit $2.5 billion annually by 2030, growing at about 16% a year. And that's important because it's 3 times faster than the growth we're seeing in men's sports. So, and Jennifer,
to
your point, Jennifer, even with all this growth, women's sports still makes up less than 2% of the total U.S. sports market. But what they're saying is we're really still at the ground floor. So that's why we might be seeing this increased investment, because there is a lot of room to grow. We're also seeing it in media deals. The NWSL's new rights deal is worth 40 times the previous one. The WNBA's next deal is more than triple its last agreement. So whether we're talking about fans showing up in the stadium, whether we're talking about these media rights deals, whether we're talking about pay for athletes, I know there's been a lot of increase there as well. They're saying this area is ripe for investment, and investors are starting to roll in. So,
highest paid pickleball player in the world is a girl.
Really?
18-year-old, yep.
Wow.
All right, we're going to talk a shakeup at the DOJ maybe, and some ridiculously stupid legislation that Moleg is considering next. Don't go away. And we're back on Wake Up Missouri. It's Jennifer Bukowski in for Randy Tobler. Stephanie Bell is here too. John Marsh, Drake Whitman. The Missouri legislature is considering some important things like eliminating the state income tax. But one thing apparently that's being pushed forward and has proceeded somewhat in the legislative process down there is a bill by Democrat Tracy McCrary, state senator, to change the way that interior designers are licensed. I have a question. Why should someone need a license to pick paint colors and buy furniture? Like, don't most people do that already in their own homes that don't have interior designers? It's called
AI.
Decorating your house.
It's called AI. Now you can just use AI to do it.
Yeah, you can use it. You can use AI for so many things. I didn't think about that interior design, but okay, so this bill, and in case you're wondering what Tracy McCrary's pronouns are, they're listed on her LinkedIn page, she, her. So I know everyone was worried about misgendering her, so I am using the correct pronouns with her. She seems fine. You know, she's a Democrat state senator, doesn't seem super crazy, but why in the world are they spending and wasting time on changing the way that this works? Right now, you can be a registered interior designer. They are trying to make it so that you are going to be, it's going to fall under the architecture board, and you'll be a licensed designer, and it'll be a Class A misdemeanor if you say you're a licensed interior designer and you're not.
And you didn't pay for the state license.
Yeah. You get a special stamp, though, John.
This sounds a lot like the hair braiding license. Remember? I mean, that was like, way back in the Greitens administration, you know, they're like, we have all these weird licenses, then we're like regulating these things that is just a wasteful. And one is like, why do you need a license to do hair braiding?
Yeah. Well, apparently, to be fair, you'll have to have a license to help people pick out paint colors and buy furniture. But if you want to say that you're a licensed interior designer and get your special stamp, you're going to have continuing education to do that. Like, purple's the new color this season. Like, what kind of continuing education would you be getting there?
Well, maybe it deals with the mixing of the basic colors to come up with new colors, and you have to be licensed to know what happens if you add blue and red together.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Or how to use your measuring tape to see if a table will fit in a room. That, like, now we have a better measuring tape that you could use interior. I mean, I love interior design. I like decorating my house. I actually have an interior designer. Very talented. Some people are very talented at this. They can make a living at it because they're so good at it. I'm not making fun of the people who do that. I enjoy their work, and I enjoy the beautiful rooms they create. But I think it shouldn't be something that Governor Keogh will have to worry about appointing 2 new people who are licensed interior designers to the architecture board, because he's got a lot of other stuff on his plate. What does the government have to do with regulating this at all?
It's kind of like what Randy says, like, just let the market decide, right? Like, you have someone you like. Your house is beautiful. If I want a good interior designer, I don't really care whether the government gave them approval. I'm going to ask a friend who has a beautiful house and say, what interior designer should I use? This is something the market can control, right? In deciding who's a good interior designer and who's not.
And that's how it works. Like, people are like, who did this space? And you make recommendations like based on their work, not based on whether or not they get their own special stamp. But, hey, why don't lawyers get our own special official stamp?
Well, we do. It's called a bar number.
Oh, but we don't get like a official stamp that you can stamp on our papers.
That would be
like
fun.
That. The clerks get them. We don't get badges either. That would kind of make, if lawyers had badges wouldn't be special anymore, I guess. But the interior designers, they don't get badges either, I guess. Wouldn't that be funny if they had badges? Hey, here's my badge. I'm here to decorate. I hear you're looking to remodel your kitchen.
I bet it'd be a really...
Not so fast there.
I bet it'd be a really pretty badge. Yeah. I bet they'd have a better badge than most people.
Would it be sparkly, maybe?
Then we need a government, board to regulate the design of government badges.
Yeah, they would. Yeah,
you're right.
There's so much time wasted, though. Like, if we just focused on the things that need to be done and didn't spend money and waste time and energy on things that we shouldn't be bothering with, It would be so much better for everyone, don't you think?
And I'm sure there's maybe an interior design lobby that wanted, the professional interior designers wanted to like exclude people who were just like part-time hobby interior designers. But like, wouldn't your money be better spent to like eliminate the income tax so we all had more money in our pockets to hire interior designers?
Yeah,
I would
think so. And the interior designers would get to sell us more expensive stuff if we had more money in our pockets to use.
And get a cut of it.
Everybody wins. But yeah, I'm just like, there's so much going on with the state. We need to have, school choice. We need to get rid of the state income tax. We need to do so many things. And this is eating up valuable floor time and legislative time. Well, legislative time, I don't know how valuable that, but it's still, the clock is ticking. We have Governor Kehoe. We got to get a lot of stuff done. And it's eating up time to worry about this.
Yeah, they're off today. And I think they come back late tomorrow, and they've got the budget, has passed out of the House, but the Senate's got a lot of work yet to do on the budget. We know it's going to be a tricky budget year, and that I don't think there's agreement between the House and the Senate, the governor yet, on what those priorities should be. But yeah, it's all about priorities, Jennifer. And I think here we've gotten a little bit confused.
Yeah, they always do every year. But I can't even believe interior designers have to consider whether. I've never asked anyone, oh, are you a licensed interior designer? Like, yeah, I know that you're good at your job. That's why I'm going to consider working with you, right?
And I can't imagine when you're out touring your district and you're like, what? You're knocking on someone's door and you're like, what is really frosting your buns? What is really bothering you? And
Designers
they say,
need stamps. The interior designers don't have an official stamp.
I think if you put
this is a tragedy.
We've seen this come up before when they look at legislation that's been on the books for years, where it's like, in St. Louis, you can't walk an elephant down the street without a permit. And,
big government sucks. I want to do that now.
And all of those, and then you look at the Division of Professional Registration with the state, like you talked about with the angle on, people dealing with home decor. But I mean, Steph can attest to it. The vast majority of people who work in the gaming industry have to be registered by the state.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, all of them, and but there are I think public safety concern. But yeah, when we get into like hair braiders, and I mean Missouri, when you back up and you look at the number of boards and commissions, we are, as a state, like we have I think the most, or we're amongst the top,
and some of them are duplicative. It's wild.
We
need to cut, like, I don't know, 80 or 90% of them, I feel like.
Well, and that is some good legislation that I think has been moving, and that's Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman out of the South St. Louis area. She had a bill to just do some cleanup, and she went through and identified, hey, here are a bunch of boards that haven't met for over 10 years, and actually here's some legislation where we created a new board where we never appointed anybody and it's never met, and let's just clean up our books and get rid of these things that are basically obsolete or duplicative. Here's a board where someone else was doing the same work and they've been doing that work, so we can get rid of that one. And I want to say her bill passed and is headed to the House. I might be wrong on that, but I think that's the type of legislation that I think we need to focus on, is cleaning this stuff up, and not, because you create these boards and these programs. Well, guess what? Now they need administrative support. They need technology. That you got to update the website. You got to, the governor's office has to screen the people who go on the boards. I mean, it creates all this background work,
background checks, and then someone has to process their per diem and their miles and all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, it's not at no cost.
When I did a transition team for an incoming governor, I was amazed how many boards and commissions there were. I was looking at it and I was like, I thought I knew a lot about state government, and I did not know about so many of these boards and commissions. And yeah, there's so many vacancies, but the governor's time is limited, and it just eats that precious resource of his time to have to make decisions about all of these different boards that aren't really doing that much. But anyway,
Missouri has over 100 state-level boards, commissions, committees, and councils.
I think it's even more than that.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
So on another note, breaking news, it's a little unclear. Over the weekend, the Daily Wire did an exclusive report that Harmeet Dillon was going to get a promotion. She's head of civil rights. Jesus Osete from here is her top deputy, her right-hand man, and she might be elevated to assistant attorney general and might be under consideration for Pam Bondi's old job. So that's really interesting news, the shakeup going on over at DOJ. Early when Bondi was ousted, the chatter was that it was going to go to Lee Zeldin, who's currently the secretary for the EPA, who almost won governor of New York. He's a very talented guy. But now it looks like Todd Blanche could be there a while as interim. And there's several different people under consideration for that top spot, including Rick DeSantis, Harmeet Dillon, and Utah Senator Mike Lee, according to the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire reported that Stanley Woodward, who held the position of Associate Attorney General, which Dillon is being considered to be promoted to, had resigned on Saturday, but other news reports are saying that that's inaccurate. So he might be getting demoted. We're not sure what's going on, but it's worth keeping an eye on because you and I have known Harmeet for like 10 years now, 11 years. Yeah, it's been so wild to watch her meteoric rise, and it's been such a well-deserved rise, too. And they just joined, Jesus Osete was part of this, joined a lawsuit here in Missouri. Did you see that?
Yeah, then one against Misha.
Yeah.
And just so to have our own AG file that suit and then DOJ step in to backstop them and get involved, I think it speaks to the level of work that our own Attorney General's office is doing. And, I think coordinating amongst all of our entities to make sure that people's rights are protected. I think it's a really cool thing.
Well, the thing they're suing about is Misha apparently has spots on their board that are for diverse people, so you have to be like a woman or a person of color to get them. You know who else has that? Last I checked, the Missouri Bar.
Oh,
don't
really?
They?
I don't know.
I was recruited to run for one of each of the districts has a diversity position, or they used to. I should check to make sure they still do. But if they do, that's problematic according to our Attorney General and the Department of Justice.
Well,
so they might want to think about that one.
And this is something that our friend Michael Bekesha, who went to Mizzou Law, got involved in several years ago in California, because California passed, I think, a statewide law that said all corporate boards have to have so many women or so many diverse spots, and they challenged it as being unconstitutional. And I believe they ended up winning that lawsuit.
Interesting times, and it's interesting how small the world seems sometimes where we know some of the people doing these big things. Marco Rubio just posted a new Substack as we've been on the air. It's got some interesting takes, so we'll come back with that and leftovers when we come back on Zimmer Radio Network.
It's Wake Up.